Hi everyone, welcome to another video log for woolen spinning. My name is Rachel and I can be found pretty much everywhere as Well for Pearls. I blog over at wellforpearls.com and this episode will be going live on Friday, June 3rd. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. This is in conjunction with hashtag fibrefriday. So when you're posting on Instagram and whatnot today, don't hesitate to participate. And also you can, if you're a blogger as well or a podcaster, or you just want to share your content, you can share it over at fibrefriday.blogspot.ca. And you can link up and share your stuff with everybody else and share what you're working on. So end of the week, I thought that I would record a short log on what I've been doing and what I've been working on. And I have quite a few things kind of ongoing. And I thought I would give you an update on what's going on. At the end, I would also like to announce a giveaway. And I'm really excited about that one. And yeah, so let's just get started. The first thing that I thought that I would show you is something that has been going on for a while. If you watched the podcast before it sort of morphed into blogging and vlogging, you will remember my Kramer yarns. This was spindle spun on my Turtle-Made Turkish spindles, the standard size. This was a 60% merino, 60% alpaca, 40% merino roving that I received from them for review, and I've been since working quite a bit on it. This was my spinner's control card that I made. So what I recorded for on my spinner's control card for this one was which Turtle-Made I used, because all of my spindles weigh ever so slightly different amount. So I wanted to make sure that I had written down which one I had used. I wrote down my twist angle and I wrote down my wraps per inch. And this yarn is 11 wraps per inch. So it's roughly a DK. I was really happy with how this turned out, and I made a wrister out of some of it, which actually I don't have nearby, which is too bad because I would show it to you. And it was just a 1.5 inch 2x2 ribbed wrister for around my wrist. And if you follow the blog, you would have seen me write about it. And I wanted to see how the yarn would wear, being subjected to tucking my spinning fiber underneath, being washed inadvertently by just doing the dishes and running my hands under the water and washing my hands and whatnot, because it would get wet. I just wanted to see what would happen, and the yarn has not worn really super well. And I think the reason for that is when I plied this, I plied it I'll actually show you on the card because it's really clear. It has just a really lovely 30-degree twist angle. So it's not really super tightly plied, but I wouldn't say that it's underplied at all. And I think I wrote on here, yeah, I didn't write what I spun this on, but basically it was a very soft spun yarn from doing it on the spindles. So I have flipped over to spinning it on my wheel. I have my first bobbin done. And I am going to spin the rest of this on my wheel. I'm spinning on 11-to-1 on my matchless, and I'm going to do 3 bobbins, ply, 3 bobbins, ply. And the reason for that is because I don't have enough bobbins to not do that. So this project is sort of an ongoing project, but it was very soft spun when it came off of the spindles, and it needs to be a little bit tighter for wear in a sweater. So I have a pound of that, and I'm just working my way through it, and it'll be done when it's done. But that is a longer term project that you will hear about probably again. Hi guys. Okay, so I talked about the Kramer yarns. I said that it was a 60% alpaca, 40% merino. But when I checked my spinner's control card just now after I checked in with Trisha, our nanny and stuff, it's actually 70% alpaca, 30% merino. And the fiber is very slippery. It's very, it does slide like you would expect alpaca to it's not as it doesn't have scales, so it doesn't sort of, the fiber doesn't grab to each other like you would expect a wool to. So, and it does have a lovely sheen. So this was the leftovers from my spindles, and I'll just work these in when I'm plying from my bobbins. So like I said, I've got one bobbin finished, and I've got one halfway done, and then I'll have a third one to do, and I'll ply those and clear off those bobbins. The next thing that I've been working on is actually something that is part of the Spin the Bin, Completely Twisted and Arbitrary Spin the Bin 2016. And this was some deep, sort of relatively deep stash roving. It's pencil roving. I had 200 grams of it. So this is 50 grams that's left from one of the braids, and this is 50 grams left from the other braid. And what I've done is pencil roving is quite lovely because when it comes, there's a natural divide in it. It sort of almost looks like it's two individual strands that have sort of been dyed together, and they kind of, fuzz up a little bit together, but they pull apart very easily. So I pulled them apart, hence these two balls of roving. And I have been spinning them up. And so I've been spinning 25 grams at a time. So that makes 2 full cops on my spindle. And I'll talk about this in a minute. And then I have those 25 grams from each to ply together, and then another 25 grams from each to ply together. And it'll eventually give me 4 50-gram skeins for a total of 100 grams. So this was my first 25-gram skein from this fiber, and I'm completely in love. I just absolutely love how it turned out. It's got a lovely sheen because it's BFL. It's one of my hairs. And the two braids of the pencil roving were slightly different enough that it gave this lovely, very subtle, very neutral barber pole effect. And I think it just really has a lot of depth and a lot of interest without being too crazy. So I'll see if I can show you a little bit closer what the fiber kind of ended up looking like. So I spun this on my spindle, one of my spindles, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So this is sort of a close-up of what this yarn looks like. It could be more consistent. If I had been paying more attention and been more intentional about how I was spinning, could have been more consistent. But overall, I'm really happy with it. It's roughly a heavy sport light DK. And the way that I spun this was, so I just bought this. This is a natural knotwood large Kapar spindle. These are from Winnipeg in Manitoba. And this is biscotte wood and then a maple shaft. And I was a bit worried about what they were going to look like together, but actually they work perfectly. And I think it's because these lighter parts of the wood, that the biscotte wood sort of has this beautiful deep grain. So this spindle is 30 grams. And the sticker there has the written how much it weighs. And that's quite important because the heavier the spindle, the more, when it's a suspended spindle that's going to be hanging in the air when you spin, the heavier the spindle, the more weight you're going to have on your fiber, pulling it down as you spin and as the twist travels up into your spindle. And it just doesn't spin as fast when it's a heavier spindle. The lighter and smaller the spindle, the faster they spin. So this 30-gram spindle, while slightly lighter than my Turtle-Made spindles, which are roughly 34 grams, it just is a really substantial spindle, and would have been lovely to learn on. If I had learned on this, it would have been a great spindle to learn on. I probably would have been afraid of dropping it, but the rounded point at the bottom, this has been dropped a few times and you can't see any sign of wear and tear. I don't like plying on these spindles because they're a little bit too slow. I like to get a bit more speed when I'm plying and then stop the spindle when I'm happy with how much twist has gone up into the plied yarn. But for spinning my singles, the weight of this pulling on that is what makes the yarn in the end, and this has been washed already, so bouncy and lofty, and gives it sort of this, after the fibers have been pulled during the spinning process and the twist has been added, and then you ply it back on itself and wash it and it gets that sproing back, it just creates this really lovely twist angle and this really lovely sort of light, airy yarn. So that is why I chose my spindles to spin this. So I actually, at the swimming pool this morning, I do have another 50 grams done. And so I actually was winding my plying ball at the pool, and it only took me a minute because it's only 50 grams worth of fiber, and I'll apply that up tonight. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that yarn finished and having another skein done, and then I'll work on those last 2 balls of roving. So that is that. The last thing that I've been working on is an old project that I have actually not ever talked about on the podcast, because it was something that I worked on before I started podcasting, and then I kind of just never came back to it. This was some merino, superwash merino. It was September of 2014 Fiber Club from Sweet Georgia, and it was called Blue Bird Cafe. And what I did was I took the fiber, this part really shows it quite well. I took the fiber and I, see if I can get the camera to focus first. I took the fiber and I put it on my drum carder in strips. I just had it and I lost it. I shouldn't have moved my hand. So I put it on my drum carder in strips, and I used a diz, which actually was just a milk bottle cap, and with a hole stuck through it, and I dizzed it off of the drum carder. And there is a video that I have posted on YouTube that shows me doing that. And I pulled off all of this what they call hand pulled roving. So, and it wasn't very consistent and it wasn't very even when I pulled it off. It kind of ended up being a little bit thick and thin when I pulled it off. And with practice, hand pulled roving can be very consistent and quite lovely. But it gave me sort of these areas where the brown and the blue pulled off together. And that's what's given me the lovely texture in the yarn. And so I have been, I had spun it on my Lendrum, this first skein. I'm not sure how much this first skein weighs, but I had initially spun this on my Lendrum, and I liked the results. The results were fine. I did a center pull ball, so I spun everything to the bobbin, and then I let it rest for a few days, and I did a center pull ball, and so I wound it off onto my ball winder and then pulled from the inside and the outside to ply it together for a 2-ply. But I decided to do the rest of it slightly differently, and I pulled out one of my Turtle Made spindles, and it just so happens to match. That was actually a coincidence. I guess I had blue and yellow on my mind. They're my favorite colors, so I'm not surprised. And I've been spinning it on the rest of it on my spindle, and I'm actually really interested to see if this yarn is different from the yarn that I got initially. And if they differ, what do I like about them and what's different? So again, the weight of the spindle may play a role. This is how I transport my spindles. I don't put the shaft in when I transport my spindles. So when I'm ready to spin again, I put the shaft in the bottom and I kind of needle it up through, and I've not had a problem with that at all. So this is a 34-gram spindle, and as I load it up with fiber, you can imagine it's going to get heavier and heavier. So I'm very interested to see what this fiber will be like after plying it, and just seeing the difference between that and a yarn that was previously spun on my wheel. So it'd be neat to have a side-by-side comparison, especially because I'm not the same spinner that I was a few years ago when I did this. So it'll be neat to see the differences in my spinning, if any. Maybe I'll be more inconsistent now, because I am finding it's difficult on the spindle to keep it consistent because of the hand-pulled roving. So you will hear about that from me when I am finished the yarn. So that is it from me today. I thought that I would just pop in and say hello and show you what I'm working on. And I said that I had a giveaway. So Kathy Thompson from Project Fleece, she's on Instagram as @ProjectFleece, and you can find her on Etsy under Project Fleece, was very, very generous and contacted me a while ago and asked if I wanted to give away some of her Proud Spinster pins. So these are from her. She's based in Ontario. I think they are brilliant. I just absolutely love them. And she sells drop spindles and other spinning equipment and weaving equipment. And yeah, check her out at projectfleece.etsy.com. So these pins, I didn't know what to do with them at first because I think they're just awesome. And I think they'd be really, really fun for everybody to have one for Tour de Fleece. So I decided to make some mini bats, little mini nests of fiber. These are very textured. They have silicone oil in them. They have sari silk, merino, Perendale, Corriedale. They've got a lot of stuff in them. Just whatever I had in my stash. So this one was green. And then I did a purple one. And then I did an orange one. And they all come with a pin. And sorry, the camera's kind of blowing out from all the white. And I will give one of these away every show. There's a little teaser here for the next 3 weeks. So through the month of June, there will be one of these video logs every Friday for the next 4 weeks. So today is the first one. There will be for sure 3 more. I'm calling it an iteration, and we will see at the end of the month. But every show I will give one of those away to somebody. So all you have to do is in the thread on Ravelry for this show, you just need to say what makes you proud to be a spinner. That's it. Why are you proud to be a spinner? Why are you proud to be a hand spinner? What is it about spinning that you are proud of? And that's it. And go. So I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.